This is a paid program. JJ Publicidad, EMR, and its owners and associates take no responsibility for the opinions or statements made by the talk show host or their guest.
Hello, good morning everyone. This is Rhia Luz live here at Entre Mujeres Radio for our episode here of BUHAY-BUHAY SA AMERIKA. Magandang umaga kabayan to all of you who are here in America and magandang I think gabi sa Pilipinas. Halos madaling araw sa Pilipinas. Maraming salamat po for joining and today, I'm very excited to have with me my great co-host. I'm looking forward to have this wonderful person to be my co-host for this episode, community advocate, author, and a winemaker. So before that, I have to introduce to all of you my co-host for today, no other than a man I truly enjoyed having be a part of BUHAY-BUHAY SA AMERIKA. This is I think our third time. Third time to work together and looking forward that many more will come. This is Mr. Gerald Villanueva Boholano. He is an ABS-CBN Arizona correspondent, marketing manager, model, and actor, and also another community advocate. Let's all welcome Mr. Gerald Villanueva Boholano.
Hi everyone, thank you for having me, Rhia.
Oh, I'm so excited, Gerald. It's like, as I said, we have you as my co-host when Larry Itliong's son, Johnny Itliong, came to the show, and thanks to Lani for bringing that Johnny Itliong here on the show, and you were my co-host together with Lani, and as well as being the first anniversary co-host also, BUHAY-BUHAY SA AMERIKA, and also becoming our guest. And now I hope you can be a regular co-host here.
We'll see. We'll see. It's great to see the show grow.
Thank you.
So congratulations to you.
I would say I owe also to Gerald. He featured BUHAY-BUHAY SA AMERIKA at ABS-CBN.
Yes, on Balitang America on
yes.
TFC.
Thank you so much, Gerald.
Of course.
I'm sure you're very excited to our episode today, and especially to hear our amazing guests. As I said, thanks to a community advocate here in the Valley, Lani Reliamas Patubo, for introducing us to this wonderful guest. So without further ado, are you ready that we should have them now? We'll introduce first the wife, and of course, amazing Gayle Romasanta. She is a writer, artist, and she's raised in Stockton, California, with a family made up of immigrants and the Filipino Manong generation. Her work has appeared on television, radio, online, and in journals and books, such as the New York Times, Smithsonian Magazine, Harvard University's Education, Next Journal, KQEDs, the Forum, ABS-CBN, and more. And she co-authored the first book about labor leader Larry Itliong, Journey for Justice, The Life of Larry Itliong, with the late and great historian Dr. Boholano Mabalon. Formerly, she was the artistic director of Bindlestiff Studio, the only Filipino American theater space in the U.S. And currently, she is an artist in residence at Brava for Women in the Arts, located at Brava Theater in San Francisco. She is writing and co-composing Larry, a musical about Larry Itliong. She is also dramaturg for several upcoming theater productions. Gayle is also the founder of Bridge and Delta Publishing, a publishing house committed to telling immigrant stories that are American at their core. She lives in Stockton, California. And with her very loving husband, the winemaker, and an amazing, supportive husband. Can you tell the name, Gayle?
Francis
Gerald.
Navarro.
Right, Francis Novero of
Hello.
Roma. Hi, Francis and
Hello.
Gayle.
I'm excited to try
Hi.
your wine.
Good morning. Can
Oh,
we
and
see them now,
so-
Javier?
And so Francis, if you guys want to know a little bit more about Francis.
Yes.
This is my press agent here.
I know, so I'm going to talk a lot about Francis. He's a native San Franciscan, born and raised in San Francisco. His family originally owned a Filipino bakery on Mission Street. So for those of you who are listening in from the San Francisco Bay Area, they owned Ramona's Bakery, and they made lechon in the city in a predominantly Latino neighborhood, which is the Mission District. And they had baked goods, and they had food, and they had other restaurants. If you've ever been to the main thoroughfare, where you go shopping in downtown San Francisco on Powell Street, where the Sephora now sits, that actually used to be an international food hall, where Francis's family also owned a Filipino restaurant called Fiesta Filipinas.
Yes, Fiesta Filipino.
Fiesta Filipina. And so he has been raised in the restaurant industry in San Francisco. And so when I wanted to move back home, I felt like there was a story at home that I needed to tell. And I was like, I can't do it here in the city. I feel like I need to go back home to Stockton. And anyone else would probably think, why are we moving back to an agricultural area when we're here in the San Francisco Bay Area? But Francis came and he said, okay, we're going to live here. But if I live here, I must also do something artistic, because we both met in Bindlestiff Studio at the only Filipino American theater space in the United States in San Francisco. So he wanted to create something and put his artistic lens on something here. And so there's grapes, there's a wine industry, the largest wine appellation in California, larger than Napa and Sonoma counties combined, is actually the Lodi appellation, which is right next to Stockton. And I went to Lodi schools, but when I was younger, I lived in Little Manila, but I lived right in Stockton, next to Lodi. And so we eventually moved to a vineyard. And Francis learned how to take care of grapes on that vineyard. He also picked, crushed, aged, and bottled his first wine, a Lodi Zinfandel, in 2008. And he's an enthusiast of California history, and the role Zinfandel grapes have played in it. Francis has also been a judge for the Lodi International Wine Awards, in addition to winning awards for his wines from the San Francisco International Wine Competition, the Finger Lakes International Wine Competition, and the California State Fair Home Wine Competition. He was also formerly the wine columnist for Lodi Monthly magazine. So some of these pictures that you're seeing now, we were trying to recreate a Manong picture there.
Yeah.
We were just laughing about it. But this is us pouring and debuting the wine, the Zinfandel,
I was in New York.
in New York City. And that is a column about Francis in the Lodi Monthly, which he would eventually become the wine columnist for that publication.
Wow, that is a wonderful story already, Gayle and Francis.
That's when I had hair.
That's Francis when he had hair on the vineyard.
Are you a sommelier?
No, not a sommelier, but I have I like to think I have my own specialties, which probably a Zinfandel is like my main specialty. But sommelier is a very you need a lot of experience and training, and it's not when you meet a certified sommelier, they really have the training and background, and you can really trust what they say.
What's a sommelier for?
Sommelier is like a master, for lack of a better word, wine taster. I guess they can really number one, taste all the qualities and of a wine, and probably number two, and maybe more importantly, is that they can recommend based on your taste what you would like. So if Rhia, you liked a sweet wine, and Gerald, you liked a dry wine, he could recommend different wines based on your taste.
Yes.
That would
But-
really you would enjoy.
Thank you so much. I think, Gerald, you're already going to enjoy this episode because everybody is going to enjoy wine after this episode. All right?
I know, I'm
but
thirsty now.
as our episode says, community advocate, author, and then winemaker. So we will save the winemaker story at the end of the show. So we have to ask our guests and our audience, please stick around because Miss Gayle Romasanta has so much to share. So maybe we should start asking that question about, especially she is the author of The Journey for Justice, the Larry Itliong life story, co-author together with your cousin.
Yes, and that's why I was so thankful to be a part of this
Yes.
episode, because Gayle wrote that book with my late cousin, so
Yes,
it really means a lot
Dr.
for me to be here.
Don Boholano Mabalon. So,
Yes, and
yes. We have a question for you, Gayle.
Mm-hmm.
What inspired you to write the book of Journey for Justice?
It's really my children. It was
Oh.
really in response to solving my own problem.
Uh-huh.
My daughter would come, she's 16 now, but she was a lot younger back then. And we have 4 kids. So we've grown in size, but it was specifically for her to have a book to read about Filipino American history. I knew about Larry Itliong. I learned about Larry Itliong and the Manong's generation. Even though I lived in Stockton and I was surrounded by Manongs, my family was made up of Manongs. My family owned a farm right next to the Delta out here. And it was something that I grew up with, and it was a home full of Manongs in that generation. And so, but I didn't really learn the history until I went to school in Southern California. And I didn't want my daughter to wait until she was college age to get that access to her own Filipino American history. I tried to find a book about our Filipino American history that would suit children, and there wasn't any. There wasn't a nonfiction illustrated children's book, to my surprise. It was actually a surprise to Dr. Don Mabalon, and we were good friends prior to writing this book. And so I had called her and I said, hey, listen, I know you're writing the adult book. She was writing and she had the research. This is really her life's research in this book. She was writing the adult book about Larry Itliong, and I said, what can we do a children's book? So we would do the children's book first, and then her adult book would come after. And so, and that was the real beginning of Journey for Justice, the Life of Larry Itliong. It was really out of my own need to solve my own problem, because there was nothing that had it. And I actually was working and writing for education, and 2 very important assembly bills had passed. Assembly Bill 123, which said in California, in the state of California, that says if you talk about Cesar Chavez or you talk about the farm labor movement in the state of California, you must talk about the Filipinos who contributed to the farm labor movement, which is amazing, right? That there's an assembly bill that tells everyone that all public school students in the state of California must learn about Filipino American history, because they weren't learning it and they haven't been. And then the second one, and these assembly bills were written by then former Assembly member Rob Bonta, who's out of the San Francisco Bay Area in Alameda County. He's now our Attorney General. And so we are so grateful that he wrote those. He also wrote Assembly Bill, that one was Assembly Bill 15. I believe it was Assembly Bill 15. or a 7. In any case, it's another assembly bill about Larry Itliong Day, celebrating Larry Itliong Day for the state of California, and that all public school students on October 25th should celebrate the birth of Larry Itliong, who contributed to the farm labor movement and to the state of California, to the labor movement specifically. And so those two assembly bills passed, and there wasn't a book to teach children about Larry Itliong. In fact, there was no book about Larry Itliong until we had written this first book about Larry. And so that was to my surprise. And so that was the real impetus. I think then Assembly Member, now Attorney General Rob Bonta, I was reading up on policy and writing magazine articles. I've been a writer for most of my career, my professional career, and those made me think about, well, why don't we have this? And then also my growing child. So long story, in a long answer, those two very key things for the next generation, my children, and specifically because there was policy, there was assembly bills that were written, yet we couldn't even support those as a community because we didn't even have a book about Larry Itliong.
Thank you so much. That is just the first segment of this episode is already so much to hear, but we have to pause for a commercial to thank our sponsor. So please, we'll be back right after this because there's more to come. Thank you, and watch for the commercial.
At magbabalik po ang Buhay-Buhay sa Amerika. Huwag kayong aalis! Nagbabalik ang Buhay-Buhay sa Amerika ni Rhia Luz.
Oh, hello, we're back. We just got a small bite of what this episode would be like. We heard Miss Gayle Romasanta spoke about what inspired her about writing a book on the journey for justice of the life of Larry Itliong, co-authored with Dr. Don Bilholano Mabalon. And did you hear she spoke about so many things that inspired these people to even create and proclaim Larry Itliong Day.
Yeah.
And I think it would be a good time also to mention that here in Arizona, we have community advocate who through Gayle's inspiration, she really inspired many, just like what we have here. Lani Relyamas Patubo, who is the reason why we learn about Gayle and we met Gayle. And Lani, I think it's about time you can also share to Gayle the proclamation from the city of Chandler. Gayle, we have a surprise for you.
Yes.
Hey, what's up, Gayle? Long time no see.
Lonnie,
It's been
so
what,
good
since 2019 in Delano?
I know, so good to see you, Lonnie. I'm
Yeah.
going to give you a online hug.
Yeah, hopefully I'm up in Stockton soon. I haven't been up there in a couple of years, but
Oh, good.
yeah, we did make some history here. I'm sure you've seen my posts, and something that Don would probably be proud of. But it was a big history here in Arizona as the city of Chandler proclaimed our first Larry Itliong Day.
Wow.
So
Oh,
through the
that's
help of
really
Rhia and her connections with the Chandler City
the
Council.
City of Chandler. We thank the City of Chandler. And also Kuya Leonardo Oromin posted it at the Filipino American journal. If you can
Yeah.
share that too. We are in the front page of yes.
This is a really big deal. I know,
Yes.
Gayle, you mentioned your children was the inspiration for writing your book, and I remember seeing you do an interview, and you said something that hit me in it, and you said it's important to look up to people from history that look like you. And I remember thinking, I didn't really have that growing up. We didn't have our Martin Luther King, but now we have Larry Itliong because now I know his story, and especially you, Lonnie. You taught me a lot about
Yes.
Oh,
the
just like-
Delano grape strike. and
Just
the
like
Manongs.
Gayle, I'm a Manong generation descendant, and I mean that's
But-
we need to learn about what our first generation went through, and
That is the thing that we are in the front page of the Filipino American Journal. Thank you, Lani, and we'll be right back with you. We'll get Gayle to talk more about this book
Yeah.
and the Larry, the musical. Thank you so much, Lani. We'll keep
Thank
it
you,
here.
Lonnie.
So here we can put it
Big
here.
hugs. Good job.
Yes,
Amazing.
good job, Lani. It was Lani and his passion. And I think, Gayle, I could say it is your community advocacy that inspired all of us. You inspired Lani, and now Lani is educating all Filipinos here in Arizona to learn about our Filipino American history, especially our Manong Larry Itliong and the Manong generation. So you were speaking about something
Well,
earlier.
yeah, I
Gerald.
that's so awesome. I know my cousin is looking down on us and is really proud that Larry Itliong is getting the recognition that he deserves. And my cousin said Filipino American history is American history. So it's
Yes.
important that we know our history and that the youth know our history. And so that's why this book that Gayle wrote is so important.
Yes.
And so, Gayle, can you tell us what it was like co-authoring the book with my cousin? And can you tell people a little bit more about her?
Oh, like we were talking a little bit before this segment. We started recording, or going live on this segment, and I was telling you that Dawn and I were comedy partners. And we've known each other just like how Francis and I, worked together at Bindlestiff Studio in San Francisco, a Filipino American theater, specifically for Filipino American work. Dawn and I grew closer at Bindlestiff also. And also our illustrator was a muralist and an illustrator at Bindlestiff. So it was a wonderful time at Bindlestiff Studio in the late 90s. We all came together and we were working on art, we were writing, we were doing theater, we were all collaborating together. And so I remember Dawn, and I know Dawn from that vein, right? From a very familiar, funny writing way. And also in a way that she would always tell me, Gayle, we're the last generation to know what it's like to live with the Manongs and to know what it's like to grow up with them and to have them as family members. And that always hit me like, are we really? And so she inspired me so much. And, I have to give her the credit of her doing the research. I mean, there's many people, it's not like Dawn was the first one to write about Larry Itliong. Other people have talked about him. Other people have written about him. So it's very rare to find a Filipino American with a PhD in Filipino American history. It's hard to find Filipino Americans with a PhD in any case and who have tenure track positions, but she had a tenure track position. She's the first Pinay to graduate from Stanford University with a PhD in history, which is in it alone and in of itself is quite a feat. And she was just, creating her own table. She's not waiting to be invited to the table. She's creating her own table. And so, for her to have done all those things and to devote her life to studying the Manong generation and to also study Stockton in a way that many people in her profession could have said to her, this isn't objective at all, since the study of history is really elite. It's very elitist. It's like you need to be really objective and you can't be part of that community. And she said, who else is going to do this? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it. And we have to give that to her. We have to give that to our historians who get PhDs specifically in history, which is few and far between. When Dawn left us, when she passed away, I think I could probably count on one hand, if half of my fingers, how many PhDs in Filipino American history we have. So we lost her, and that was a very big deal. She passed away. And she was very thorough, and she was so good. We had UFW journalists go through the book. We had a lot of reviewers, children. We redrafted the book probably over 25 times. In the beginning, the children were like, "Oh, this book is really boring," and so we had to redraft. And she's so thorough. To work with her was to do it over and over again, 25 times, and to go back and forth and say, "Well, how do you tell a really adult story?" Because lots of people would tell us, "Good luck telling Larry Itliong's story in adult form," and they would laugh. Because these were tough times. These were harsh times. We're talking about violence upon Filipino Americans, absolute racial violence, where Filipinos were getting, people would go into Stockton's Little Manila, get out of the car with bats, and for fun, they would beat Filipinos. Filipinos were segregated. We could only live in Little Manilas or in Chinatowns. We couldn't marry outside. And since there was not a lot of women, Filipino American men could not marry outside of their race because they're considered Mongoloid during those times. And they couldn't marry whites, and they couldn't marry outside. And so these were such hard times. How do you translate that and put that into children's form? So to do that took many attempts. And it was such a joy to work with her, and it really is her research. It is from her archives that what she really, it's part detective, part historian. She had to really go to different municipalities and ask them for records, for real records, like marriage licenses, for death certificates, for all of these things to weave a story. Like all of the things, the information that you're getting from a children's book is actually first person historical oral research history. It's not like someone else wrote the book and then we were like, we're going to rewrite it for children. This was actually taken from research that was absolutely raw in its form and knitted together and put together with Dawn's work. So that's what you get. So which is why actually this book is taught in different universities throughout the country. It's taught at it's actually in Texas, it's at Rice University. I don't know if it's at any universities in Arizona. I don't think not yet. But let's say in Michigan, on the East Coast, it's being taught. In some of the South, it's being taught all over California. And these are universities level students, not just K through 12 or K through 14. And so, working with her was wonderful. And at the time, I didn't think that we were going to write such a book that also university students could use it. But she had so much information. Dawn had tons of information. She would have kept going. If I was like, listen, we can't go past 52 pages. Can't do it. Don't do it. And so I would always try to edit down everything. But she had so much to give, to give. And I'm so grateful this was the last book that she gifted us, our Filipino American community.
Well, thank you so much, Gayle. You have given us a glimpse of Dr. Dawn Mabalon. Her humor is translated in anything in the book as well as in her work. And imagine how much I appreciate you as well for letting us know a glimpse of her. And and also, I wanted to point out, as you said, Dr. Mabalon created the table. She didn't wait to be invited in the table. She created the table. And I would say, Gayle, you actually made that table longer. Because as you imagine, from your book, Arizona is now learning about Larry Itliong. We have finally a first proclamation in the state of Arizona, and
Yes.
and as you said, it's now. I would like to tell you that it is going to be taught in Yuma, the first teacher who actually pushed. It came from you that you donated the books of this journey for justice to my niece. Her name is Elaine Resurrection Chavez. You can flash the picture of Javier of this wonderful teacher in Yuma who received the book of Larry Itliong, and now she went to the Board of Education in Arizona, and it will be taught in Arizona Board of Education, the
That's
Filipino
amazing.
American history.
I could just
wow.
cry. That is so amazing. And this was like, I thought of this book, but I didn't realize we'd lose Dawn, and I didn't realize it would have the reach that it's had. But I want to say, like, Lonnie connected me
Yes.
with Elaine, and Elaine wanted to do it. And so each of us are creating our own tables. And I found that in doing the National Book Tour for Journey for Justice, without Dawn, and for pushing forward her work and pushing forward our Filipino American history and pushing forward the work of Larry Itliong, I found that every locale, every state that I visited, there are Filipino Americans who are absolutely shifting and changing culture, and they're making their own tables just like Dawn did, making them longer, like you were saying, Rhia. Lonnie is one of those folks. Elaine is one of those folks. So it's whenever, and everyone came together to push forward our Filipino American history that I'm so proud of. And Fonz National was amazing in setting up these tours. They were a big, huge partner. Filipino American National Historical Society. They were a huge part of pushing forward this book. Dawn was a national trustee, but she was also a national scholar for Fonz. And so they were huge in pushing that forward. We had other community partners who partnered with us. We also had a wonderful PR agency, Paloma Concordia of Papa Lowdown Press, and she teaches the Filipino American community how to have our stories have wider reach than what we would originally think, because we don't have experience in putting out our stories or experience in media. So Rhia, folks like you who give a platform, and Gerald, ABS-CBN, and your work for giving all of us a platform for these stories is part of that table, and just creating our own table and making sure that we're all at it. So I'm really grateful, and I'm so grateful for what's happening in Arizona. To me, they're miracles, and absolutely something that I would not have foreseen at all. And it happens with folks in our community like yourselves, and definitely with Lonnie. Lonnie has been such amazing pushing our Filipino American history.
Thank you so much, Dawn. And as I'm Dawn. I already call her
Yeah.
Dawn.
She's here.
She's here.
She is
Thank you,
here.
Dr. Dawn
She is
Mabalon.
here.
Yes.
She's here.
I'm looking at Lonnie, and I know how much Lonnie loved Dr. Dawn Mabalon, and how much he loves you, Gayle, and appreciate you and your family for what you have contributed. And as you mentioned earlier about the media platform, I know that you have something, as Gerald was saying also, we need to have more representation in the media. And
Yes.
I'd like at this time, Javier, can you flash for us this Larry Itliong, a musical, so then we can start that conversation going.
4 and action.
There's very much a lack of representation in the media for Filipinos, so we've gotten so used to not seeing ourselves that, when we're like, oh yeah, okay, they're playing that, they're playing this, but they're not playing Filipino.
We ache and we long for our stories to be told, and this is it. This is our chance, and so I think it is a big deal.
Telling this story now is so important. It's necessary, it's integral, it's vital, it's everything.
When people think about the labor movement, they're primarily thinking about Cesar Chavez, because that's what is being taught. Larry and the Filipino experience in California doesn't get a lot of shine.
To me, it opens the door to see really the full community, the full humanity of our people really coming together and how they weathered it all.
And so we're finally telling the story that it needs to be told of a man who is absolutely paramount to Filipinos' past, present, and future. And that's what this is about.
Thank you, Gayle. Thank you for bringing us this platform.
That is so cool.
Starting. Thank you, Javier. And we want to see Gayle expression at this time. Is she crying?
Well, this is another project that has grown out of Journey for Justice. I've been doing theater work and also musical theater work in my past career. We have been part of theater for decades now. Two of my collaborators, Melvin Badiola, who's part of Brava Theater in San Francisco, which is in the Mission District in a predominantly Latino neighborhood in San Francisco, and Brian Pangilinan, who is very specifically trained in traditional Philippine music. But he's done musical theaters. They're all very much a big part of the musical theater scene in the San Francisco Bay Area. We came together and we thought, well, why don't we do a musical? People know about Hamilton. Why not know about Larry? And we created the music. We put it on YouTube, or not on YouTube. Well, I think originally it was on YouTube. And due to actors' contracts. And so our actors are actually from Broadway, and our director is a Broadway vet. And then some of our actors are also from the San Francisco Bay Area and also from Los Angeles. And so we were able to get some of our just Philippine excellence as far as artistry is concerned. Like, everyone was trained. Like, everyone has been trained since a child. Everyone knew how to read music. Our musical director, Sean Khanna, he brought the Temptations musical to Broadway. It first started out here in the Bay Area, and he worked on it, and then and it got to Broadway. So many of us have been working within the arts, and so we all came together, and we had, I think, how many signups did we have? I forget how many RSVPs. I think like over, is it 1,500 or something?
Close to 2,000.
Oh, 2,000 or over. We had that many RSVPs to get the link to watch. We had over 4,000 views, which I know other videos go viral, but for a musical about Filipino American history, we had over 4,000 views in
2 days.
In 2 days. Like, we only did it for a day and a half. And we've got that many views. We showed it again for another one day because so many people said we missed the showing. And so and we do have it to show, but I wish we could show some of the music. The music was outstanding. And so I'm writing along with Brian Pangilinan, and he's the lead composer. Sean Khanna is our musical director, all Filipino American creative team, by the way. Our videographer, his name is Chris Sotelo, Filipino, but he's also the executive team's videographer and the Google founders videographer.
Social.
Yeah. So we have some of the best talent on. And then we also have Kevin Kamia, if you guys have heard of him. He's a comedian. He's been, he's had a TV show on TBS. He's been on the Colbert Show. He has a podcast on the Will Ferrell podcast channel, I think, right now. And he's coming out of LA, but I've worked with him musically and writing with him, but he's our dramaturg. Who else? Am I missing anyone else in the creative team?
Gayle, I know that you want to give credit to everybody. Maybe we should give them next time. We should invite them. But for now, I might wanted to share that from what I'm hearing, you started the book. of Larry Itliong, and it is now going to everyone's consciousness. And I know that music steers the soul and heart. So thank you that you have decided to bring Larry Itliong, the musical. And as our wonderful Gerald said earlier, we need more representation. We need people to be seen and act like us in movies. And so, yes.
That's kind of the reason why I got into commercial acting, because watching TV, I never saw people that looked like me. And if they were Filipino, they were typically a lot lighter skin. And they probably didn't have a feminine voice like I have. So representation matters. So, Francis, how does it feel to be in this power couple and see your wife write this awesome musical?
Well, you know, to be honest, when we first met, 20 years ago, it is beyond my wildest dreams that it would get to this point. But in the same vein, also, it just feels right. With everything we've done, this book kind of puts everything, binds it all together. With our theater background, which we met together originally, living on the vineyard in Lodi among the grapes, and her writing background, it just all kind of ties together into this one nice package, and it's kind of like seeing the fruits of your labor, come to fruition. But honestly, 20 years ago, we would have not imagined living, back in the Central Valley and doing this. But
we always seem to find ourselves in New York, because he debuted the wine in New York, and our director and one of our producers. So Billy Bustamante is a Broadway vet with the Larry the Musical. Kevin Nadal is a distinguished professor over at John Jay.
Yes,
Dr. Kevin Nadal.
Yes, Dr. Kevin Nadal.
He's my spirit animal.
Yes, and so we are pushing for Larry to go to New York, just like Francis's wine has gone to New York. And so we live here, though. We live in Stockton, which is something that, I don't know, I think that it's really cool that we can create here.
Well,
and go.
It's amazing that you are talking already on our amazing winemaker, Francis Novero. Francis, I'm curious. How did you start making the wine, or how did you start doing this?
Well, like Gayle mentioned earlier, in 2007, 2008, we moved back to the Central Valley. Went from city to country in 180 degrees. One day we're living in the city in the San Francisco Bay Area, and the next day, literally, we're living on a vineyard in Lodi. And it was a big culture shock, to say the least.
He didn't know what a truck full of goats looked like.
So this is a funny story. We're getting gas, in Lathrop. Lonnie is from Lathrop, and he probably knows this gas station. And we pull up, and this Toyota pickup, with no gates around it, just a pickup, pulls up with a goat in the back. Actually, 2 goats.
No, multiple goats.
Multiple goats. And I look over, I said, Gayle, he has goats in his pickup. And she's like, yeah? I'm like, but there's no gate. They have no chain, no rope or anything. They're just in the back of the pickup.
Well, welcome to Lodi. But
visiting her mom and dad, her parents in Stockton, we drive past, going up 99, the grape fields, the grape vineyards. And it never occurred to me the multiple times we went to visit them that these were actually wine grapes. You usually just think Napa, Sonoma, as the wine growing regions, but Lodi AVA is actually one of the major wine grape producing regions in California and by de facto the United States.
I never heard of Lodi for making wine.
I actually asked him, is it Lodi or Lodi? But I have one more question, Gerald, and this is, what challenges did you encounter creating your winery?
Well, the main challenge was just lack of knowledge. Like, where do I find the training and the knowledge to do this? And there's two schools of thought in modern day winemaking. You either go to college, like a UC Davis or Fresno State. Those are like the two one enology type of background education you can get. Or this is something that's been going on for thousands of years. It's an ancient process that you can learn hands-on. And I opted for the hands-on method because that's how I learn anyways, even in school. Like, if there's, if I did marine biology for a little bit, if there's no lab, I'm not really interested in just, studying text all the time. So I joined a local amateur winemaking club, and it helped that we lived on the vineyard also. So we had access to grapes right there. And at the same time, I learned my first season there, everything about the vine growing process from pruning in the winter, the first bud in the spring, watering in the summer, and then harvest in the fall, and everything in between. So that was it was a big crash course. It really helped my transition from moving from the city into the country, and that kind of kept me sane because busy hands, and you don't have time to really feel depressed or long for what your old life was.
That's probably one of the reasons why you can continue to support Gayle in all the things that she's doing, because you're very busy in the wine.
Yes.
How can we try your wine and support your
right
wine
there
business?
Maybe can you show us some closer view of the bottles?
Oh, sure. So
I love that.
This is my flagship wine, which is a Zinfandel. I'm a big California history. Nova Roma. This is a Lodi Zin, and I'm a big California history buff. But Zinfandel is considered, California's grape. It was the most widely planted grape. It was first planted, I believe, 1854. But the reason why it's so popular in California is because the variety has like a thick skin, and it tolerates heat well. And that's why it thrives so well in Lodi. And the type of wine it makes is big, bold, peppery. It gives you a full-bodied flavor sensation when you drink it. And I think that's kind of like my philosophy on winemaking is I like to create something that that I like, and I feel that would, really kind of propagate the notion of as California as Zinfandel as California's wine grape.
Gerald, sorry, it just dawned to me that we could have the book, the Larry musical, and then they can bring the wine here in Arizona.
Yeah.
We have actually I just thought of Ben and Chad, who are wine lovers, and the Rainbow family.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we should introduce you to this wonderful partners.
Have you been to Temecula, California? And
Yes,
tried
I have.
any of the wine there? Yeah, my partner's from there, and I was like, wow, it's amazing to see all the wineries that have just popped up there in the recent years in Temecula. But I bet you are living the dream of what the Manongs envisioned for you to have this wine business. And I think that is so incredible. And I look forward to definitely trying your wine.
Well, there was a picture you showed earlier, and the montage was on the vineyard, and my friend Warner, we actually were like trying to recreate one of those. But it's funny is like it felt right being out there in the fields. It's just I get goosebumps like just thinking about it now. When I was out there, just feel kind of like the energy. Like I was thinking. Actually, Gayle kind of mentioned when we were out there, it's like, this very well is like the same fields that the Manongs were working, that we're living on now, and we're able to produce wine. I, feel very fortunate and honored to be able to do that.
And it blows, I want to say it blows my mind because I have been surrounded by grapes my whole life. My high school was named after a grape. The rivalry high school was named after another grape. We were named Tokay, which is a Tokay grape. And then the Flames, which is named after the Flame grape, was our rivalry. My brother lived surrounded by vineyards. He lived not on a vineyard, but his house was surrounded. Like, I mean, the backyard is all vineyards. Down the way from my family's house, the suburbs, like it's all surrounded by ag and grapes, vineyards. They're not any longer, but so anywhere we went, there are grapes. And it never even occurred to me to even make wine, and it never occurred to my family to drink wine. Never.
My dad was always drinking San Miguel. But,
now he can have the Sin Pandel or no
yeah,
Barama.
like, Dad, just try this wine.
He came and he was like, well, I'm going to make wine. I'm like, what? What are you going to do? Like, I didn't know. I didn't understand that culture, and I didn't know what that was. And so I'm so grateful that, his family brought their own history and their culture of love of food, and making things and having restaurants. And so it took for someone to come to our family or to come to our region to be like, I think I'm going to be a Filipino American winemaker. And I was like, what's that?
I love that.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Gayle and Francis, for bringing us this idea and starting that advocacy for our Filipino American history, as well as I think we should hear from you how we can help you, Gayle and Francis, in your advocacy in this winemaking and your Larry the Musical as we close this segment.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess the main thing is, buy Nova Roma wine, drink Nova Roma wine.
And where can we buy them?
You can go to novaroma.com. Actually, if you follow us on Instagram, it's probably the kind of like newfangled way. It's just kind of social media is kind of. When I started in the business 10 years ago, social media was coming online, but now it's kind of like the more dominant way to promote and sell your product. More so than just the website. But we do have novaroma.com. But if you follow us on Instagram, Novaroma Wine, you'll be able to find us.
And the bottles are really beautiful, by the way. The same designer, illustrator of Journey for Justice did our bottles, and he's an amazing graphic designer.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We'll definitely tell people about Novaroma. And so this basically, we have only a few minutes left before the show ends. Gerald, do you have anything else to ask them?
Oh, yeah. How can we watch the musical? Can you tell us anything more about it, of how people can get connected and involved?
Larry the Musical on Instagram, larrythemusical.com. We're also going to show our second workshop performance, which will have all of the songs and the script as well. So we only did songs this first time around. So you can watch that. You can find clips of it on our Instagram, larrythemusical.com, and you can see who our Larry is, who's Julian de Guzman, and he sings the beautiful Dahil Sa Iyo that you can see on Larry at Larry the Musical on Instagram. And also, so be sure to check us out, sign up, and so you can learn more about it. We're also going to be performing it in Delano, where the great Delano Grape Strike happened. So we're going to be bringing you there. Our videographer is going to be there, Chris Sotelo, our Google genius, and Billy Bustamante, our Broadway vet director, Sean Kana, Kevin Kamia, Erna, Brian Pangolina, and Melvin Badiola, and Erna Cruz Louis, who is our master. So
thank you for introducing them to us, Gayle, and I'm sure we'll be meeting them someday. We'll invite them to the show, and maybe we can meet you in person here in Arizona.
A tour in Arizona.
Yeah, you gotta come visit. You can stay at my place if you need a place to stay.
Yes, please.
Of course.
And make sure you bring some wine. So you can introduce to our friends, Ben and Chad. They may invite you to their mansion.
Oh.
Wine in a mansion, always good.
Yes. So this actually is a good way to wrap up our show. But we have part of our show that we share upcoming events. So we have to share our upcoming events, which today, Gerald, I would like to mention today our Consul General and his staff are here in the Valley for their consular outreach today from 9 a.m. to 12 noon or 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. from today, November 13 to 14 at Sonesta Select Phoenix Camelback 2101 East Camelback Road here in Phoenix. So you can get your consular services provided by our amazing Consul General and his staff. And the next one is today also a treasured presence. Father Ricky Manalo is having the retreat at St. Paul's Catholic Church from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Thank you so much, Javier. And next is the Phoenix Rainbow Lions Club is having a commit for a cause, and this is on November 20 at 7 p.m. Contact Ben and Chad, as I'm mentioning their names,
Yes.
who is also one of our sponsors of BUHAY-BUHAY SA Amerika.
And owners of R&R.
Yes, owner of R&R. Thank you so much, Ben and Chad. Next one on December 5. You're invited, Gayle and Francis, come over to this Unity at Christmas, Christmas, Arizona, FAS of AZ and Filipino American Chamber of Commerce of Arizona from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. at St. Paul Parish Hall, 330 West Coral Gables Drive. It would be a fun event. And next one is Fanogs are having their Christmas party as well on December 11, 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. Contact any Fanogs member. And next one, of course, next is November 27, Saturday at 10 a.m. We have Filipino priests who will be joining us, Father Romy Dionisio and Father Jovency Balang, together with my co-host Cecil Rivera Maglalang and Dr. Pam Sapanta joining us. So don't miss this wonderful episode. And today, Gerald, can you mention?
Today is World Kindness Day.
Yay!
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah,
So that's good to
I
know.
learned today too that it is World Kindness Day. Imagine, Gerald, what can happen if 7.8 billion people in the world do one act of kindness today. It probably will change the world for good. And as our Francis mentioned earlier, the fruits of your labor, if we can do something for goodness, and we can not only eat the cake, we can drink wine later.
And be kind to yourself.
Yes. Gayle and Francis, are you still there?
We are.
All right. I hope that you enjoyed being in our show, and you can tell your friends and relatives to be part of BUHAY-BUHAY SA Amerika. If you know somebody who are worth sharing their story, just like yours, and Gerald, we'll be happy. Gerald and I will be happy to host another episode, right,
Absolutely.
Gerald?
It was so great meeting you guys, and I can't wait
Yes.
to meet you guys in person, and we wish you the best of luck with your wine business and the musical.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for having us, Rhia and Gerald. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
I thank Lani for introducing you to us. And as I mentioned earlier to Gerald, you know, this is like wrapping up the story of Larry Itliong from the grapevine strike, farm strike work.
The Delano grape strike.
Yes, Delano grape strike farmers. And now you started you're there. That's our handsome Gerald.
Oh, for that was my Google. That's one of my first acting gigs.
See, this is
you were Google.
Yeah.
BUHAY-BUHAY SA Amerika is all about how we can promote our Filipino kababayan in our community and to the world. So Gerald, Francis, and Gayle Romasanta, thank you Gayle Romasanta and Francis Novero and Lani Reliamas Patubo. Thank you so much. As I were mentioning earlier, not everyone can be an author or a winemaker, but anybody can be a community advocate. Thank you so much for joining. This is Rhia Luz of Buhay-Buhay sa Amerika. Continue to support and like Buhay-Buhay sa Amerika. Please like and subscribe. God bless you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
This was Buhay-Buhay sa Amerika. Join us again next time at entremujeresradio.net. Hanggang sa muli, mabuhay!